Hi, Professor Kent Lee here, and welcome to this week's video. Today we're going to continue talking about problems with the writing process. And for example, students often have problems with procrastination, putting things off to the last minute, and problems with writer's block. You're writing and you just get stuck and you don't know how to go on from there. And again, it's not necessarily because you're lazy or a bad student. It's maybe due to deeper motivational problems, like and some of the writing strategies we talked about before. It could be related to this. So let's talk about motivation. You may have been told, oh, you need more motivation to study. Well, yes and no. There are actually healthy kinds of motivation and unhealthy kinds of motivation. What you have to do is understand the healthy kind and the unhealthy kind and the pitfalls of the unhealthy kind, because what you need is not just more, but better quality motivation. So we'll talk about that. The first kind of motivation that psychologists talk about when it comes to learning is intrinsic or internal motivation. This is the student who likes to learn. So if you like writing a paper in a particular course, you have an intrinsic motivation toward writing or toward the topic or the course. And that's actually a very good thing. You are more likely to enjoy it because, well, frankly, you're interested in it. You have an intrinsic motivation. It's called internal because it's your own choice. It's within you. It's entirely within you. So for example, you have a personal interest, an intellectual interest, or a social interest in the topic that you're learning. And because of that, you feel like it's your choice. You have a sense of choice or autonomy, as psychologists call it, in the matter. I'm learning this because I want to. At least I feel like I want to. And that's autonomy in learning. And that's a great thing when you can feel that. And when you have that kind of sense of I'm doing this because I want to, when you learn, as you learn, you get this sense of improvement, a sense of growth. And this sense of growth or achievement or even mastery, it feels great. You feel like, oh, I'm learning something, I'm getting better at this, or I've mastered this, at least to some degree. And you feel good about yourself. This sense of growth or achievement feeds your self-esteem, and it makes you like it even more. And also for some students, a sense of social connection may also be a third factor. Autonomy, sense of growth, and maybe social connectedness, maybe from forming friendships with your classmates, or maybe you're learning a language and you hope someday to be a part of that culture and that language community. There's a sense of social connection, and for some people that's an important thing too. But especially the sense of autonomy and growth. When you have that, you have an internal or intrinsic motivation. And when you have that intrinsic motivation, your study habits are much better because you are really interested in understanding the material, the contents. Deeper conceptual learning, not just memorizing facts, but a deeper conceptual learning. When it comes to writing, you are interested in writing and learning from the writing task, the writing exercise. You have a sense of interest in it. And that's a successful student. When you are intrinsically motivated, you are also maybe outside of class thinking about the materials, the contents, so you can understand it better. You're rehearsing it in your head. And you're maybe seeking sources of more learning outside of class, reading up on the topic. If it's a language, maybe you're seeking out media materials or something to read in the language or something to watch or listen to improve the language. If it's writing, maybe you like writing on your own. That's intrinsic motivation. And students with that motivation go for deep learning, and they are the better, more effective students, and they do better. Can you be intrinsically motivated toward all of your school subjects? No, probably not. That's not realistic. For some things you may have a more neutral motivation, which we'll talk about later, or even a negative motivation. So let's talk about the negative motivation, because this is often the source of procrastination and writer's block and other poor study habits. The next major kind of motivation is what psychologists call extrinsic motivation or external motivation, meaning it's from outside of you. It's not really your own desire. It's imposed upon you from outside somehow. In this case, maybe you're learning something or you're writing a paper or you're taking a class, but you have no sense of interest in the contents or materials. No personal or intellectual interest. You don't feel like it's your choice. It's something you have to do. It's an obligation or duty or a source of stress or pressure. You don't get a sense of growth from it, and it doesn't make you feel good about yourself, especially when you keep doing poorly and getting poor grades in the topic. So for you, it's a source of stress or pressure or obligation. And why are you doing it? You have to. It's obligation. And ultimately because for you, there's maybe some kind of reward. So you're not learning for the purpose of learning itself. You're seeking some other reward, maybe maybe not such a tangible reward, not like money or anything. Well, maybe what you're focused on is just surviving the class or getting good grades, getting good test scores, getting into a good university, getting into a good graduate school, but you're not really interested in learning this stuff itself. You're trying to get something else with it. Or maybe you want to get a good job, so money is maybe a thing, but you're not really interested in learning this language or this math or this history itself for the sake of learning. And maybe you're trying to avoid punishment. And it could be more non-tangible kind of punishment. It could be bad grades, bad scores, not getting into a good college, pressure, criticism from your parents or your teachers. You're trying to avoid looking or feeling dumb. I don't want to think I'm dumb. I don't want my friends to think I'm dumb. I don't want my parents or teachers to think I'm dumb. I don't want my parents to criticize me or get angry at me for getting a C in this class. Something like that. You're avoiding some kind of punishment or negative outcomes. You're not really interested in learning. So your approach to studying tends to be superficial. You focus on facts, factual learning rather than conceptual learning, memorizing facts, rote learning, cramming like at the last minute. And so because of this, because you're not motivated, naturally you don't want to write the paper. When you have to write a paper, naturally you don't want to do it. It feels like a burden, an obligation, a source of stress. One reason you may be procrastinating is it's a psychological self-defense strategy that your brain is doing to you. Your mind is afraid of a negative outcome. So your mind is playing self-defense. Your mind is saying, I'm not going to do this because I know I'm going to look bad. I'm going to get a bad grade. I'm going to feel bad about myself. So your mind is kind of going on self-defense. No, I don't want to do this. It's a self-defense strategy your brain is doing to you. That could be why you're procrastinating with writing assignments or school assignments. It could be why you're having problems with writer's block. A particularly nasty kind of extrinsic motivation is what we call perfectionism. People often think perfectionism is a good thing, but it's not. It might seem to push you and make you do well in school for a while. You could have kind of a mixed, maybe positive motivation toward most of your classes, but when it comes to grade, you can have a perfectionistic motivation. So a perfectionist is a person who, wants to be perfect, but they have unrealistic expectations of themselves. Now, these could be expectations that other people have imposed upon them and they've internalized, or they've created them themselves. They want to be perfect because they want to get affirmation. I am smart, I'm a good student, therefore I'm worthy of love or respect. This could be because of lack of love or acceptance from parents, or just excessive pressure, academic pressure, educational pressure, work pressure, whatever. It can turn you into a perfectionist. You don't accept yourself for who you are. Instead, you have to attain some level of achievement in order to accept yourself or feel that others will accept you for who you are. But it's not for who you are, it's for what you do. So it's not realistic. And you think, okay, if I'm really smart, I should be able to work to here. So you work hard and you get up to here. So then you think, oh, I should be able to get up to here if I'm really smart. Well, at some point in your life as a perfectionist, you find yourself in a situation where no matter how hard you try, no matter how hard you work, you can't get up to here. Maybe it's just bad circumstances, a really tough class, a really difficult work environment, whatever. You'll find yourself in this kind of situation and you fall into failure mode. No matter how hard you work, you can't get up to there. And then the perfectionist falls into anxiety or depression, maybe writer's block or procrastination. And again, it could be due to excessive pressure in your past. And you have to think about long term, what are my expectations of myself? What do I expect of myself? Why? Where do these expectations come from? What are your expectations for school success, for career success? Where do these expectations come from? Are they right for you? A lot of us have to rethink our expectations of ourselves and our lives because they are not realistic. And we have to have realistic expectations of ourselves. Other similar reasons for why you may lack motivation, especially in a course, again, excessive educational pressure. Maybe a teacher discouraged you. Maybe you feel bad about your English skills, your writing skills, and it could be because in your past, a language teacher or some other teacher, or maybe a parent or someone else, discouraged you. They made you feel bad, they made you feel dumb, they gave you a lot of negative feedback or criticism, or for some reason they hurt you. So it could be because of this, that you have no motivation, and so you avoid taking challenging classes, you try to avoid assignments by procrastinating, or maybe writer's block, mental blocks, kind of an emotional anxiety block, perhaps. Those could be possible reasons. Maybe you've been a victim of social comparison. Maybe parents or teachers compared you negatively with someone else. Maybe your parents compared you, hey, your brother was really great at math, what's wrong with you? And maybe that's hurt your feelings and turned you into a sort of a perfectionist where you're too focused on achievement and being perfect and looking good. Those are things to think about, especially when it comes to writing or school in general. Because when it comes to school motivation, particular tasks like writing assignments, these things can be paralyzing. Now, short term, you might be able to engage in more careful use of pre-writing techniques or better study techniques. Go for that short term. Long term, though, you need to reflect on yourself. What is it about my past that made me this way? Why do I dislike this so much? Why can't I focus on this? Why do I procrastinate on this? Not because you're lazy, but because of some kind of emotional block from your past. And that's something to think about. And if you have those kinds of problems, I really hope you can reflect on them, maybe talk to somebody about it, at least some friends who have similar struggles, and figure out why that is. And if you're in that kind of situation, I really hope you can reflect on and figure out what it is that made you that way, because just that, being able to name that, what it is that hurt you in the past, that can be liberating once you identify it and you realize how it affected you psychologically and academically. And you can maybe get over that. So if you're in that situation, I really hope you can recover from it and learn to be a successful student. So I wish you the best of luck in getting over these kinds of psychological barriers to learning. Good luck to you.